Hello, and welcome back. Let me ask you something honest. How long have you been studying English? 1 year? 3 years? Maybe longer. And how do you feel right now today when someone asks you to speak? If the answer is nervous, slow, or not ready, then this lesson is for you. This lesson is for English learners who are tired of trying and still feeling stuck. Not because you are lazy, not because you are not smart enough, but because nobody told you the truth about how language actually works. Today, that changes. By the end of this lesson, you will know exactly why your English is not growing the way it should. And you will know the one method that fixes everything. Not a shortcut, not a trick, the real method, the one that works. Here is what I want you to understand before we begin. Most people who struggle with English are not failing because of talent. They are failing because of the method. And the method they are using was never designed to make them fluent. It was designed to help them pass a test. There is a big difference. Passing a test and speaking with confidence are two completely different things. You can score 90% on a grammar exam and still freeze when a native speaker says, "So what do you do for work?" That is not your fault. But now you know. And knowing changes everything. The method matters more than the hours. Read that again in your mind. The method matters more than the hours. Because right now, there are people studying half as much as you, and they are improving twice as fast. Not because they are gifted, because they found the right path. Today, I'm going to show you that path. We are going to break down the biggest myths that are quietly stealing your time. We are going to look at what actually builds real English fluency. And at the end, I want you to make one decision. Just one. Because one right decision made today and kept every single day will take you further than 5 more years of the wrong method. If that is what you want, stay with me. And if this kind of lesson, straight English, real ideas, no wasted time, is what you have been looking for, subscribe right now. There is more coming, and you do not want to miss it. Let us begin. Let me show you how most people approach this. They sit in a classroom. A teacher writes rules on a board. Present simple. Past continuous. Third conditional. They copy the rules into a notebook. They memorize them. They take a test. They pass. And then they try to have a real conversation, and everything falls apart. Sound familiar? Here is the truth that most English teachers will not say out loud. The way English is taught in most schools was not built for fluency. It was built for exams. And exams and fluency are not the same thing. Think about how a child learns their first language. No grammar books, no vocabulary lists, no tests. A baby hears words thousands of times in real situations. Mama, hungry. No, come here. The words come with meaning, with emotion, with context, and slowly, without studying, the child begins to speak. By age 5, that child can hold a full conversation. Not because they studied hard, because they were surrounded by the language every single day in real life. Now think about you. You spent years in a classroom learning rules about a language, but you were never surrounded by it. You were never inside it. You saw English from the outside, like looking at a country on a map, but never walking through its streets. That is the problem. A weak learner spends years memorizing grammar rules and still cannot speak naturally. A strong learner ignores the rules at first and focuses on absorbing the language the way a child does, through listening, through repetition, through real context. This is not about intelligence. Some of the most fluent English speakers in the world never finished school. And some people with university degrees in English cannot order a coffee in London without panicking. The difference is not brains. The difference is method. You were not taught badly because your teachers did not care. Most of them cared very much. But they were also following a system. A system designed to produce test results, not real speakers. And here is the shift I want you to make right now, even before we go further. Stop blaming yourself. You are not bad at languages. You were handed the wrong tool for the job. Imagine someone giving you a spoon and telling you to cut wood. You try for years and nothing works. That does not make you weak. That makes the spoon the wrong tool. The grammar textbook is the spoon. And today we are going to find you a much better tool. But first, let us talk about the myths. Because before you can build something new, you have to clear out what is broken. And there are some very powerful myths about learning English that have been wasting your time for years. And right now, most people are using the wrong method and wondering why more hours are not helping. Let us fix that. Myth number 1. You have probably heard this advice your whole life. Learn 20 new words every day. Write them in a notebook. Review them every night. Do this for 1 year, and you will have 7,000 words. It sounds like a plan. It feels like progress. You open your notebook, you write the words, you close it, and you think, good, I did something today. But here is what actually happens. 3 days later, you remember maybe 5 of those 20 words. A week later, you remember 2. A month later, the notebook sits on your shelf, and those 7,000 words never arrived. This is not a memory problem. This is a method problem. Your brain is not a storage box. It does not keep information just because you wrote it down. Your brain keeps information that it uses, information that it sees in context, information that it needs to survive and understand the world around it. Think about words you never forget. You never forget the word fire because you have seen fire, felt its heat, heard people warn you about it. You never forget the word late because you have been late and someone was not happy about it. You know these words in your bones, not because you studied them, but because life gave them to you with feeling and context. That is how the brain actually works. Scientists who study the brain and language call this neuroplasticity. Your brain builds new connections when it processes meaning, not when it copies symbols onto paper. Every time you hear a word in a real situation, your brain lights up a little. Hear it again. It lights up stronger. Hear it 50 times in 50 different real moments, and that word is yours forever. A weak learner counts the words they studied today. A strong learner counts the hours they spent listening to real English. One of them is measuring effort. The other is measuring results. Now, I am not saying vocabulary does not matter. It does. A bigger vocabulary means you understand more, and understanding more means you grow faster. But the question is not how many words you study. The question is how you meet those words. Do you meet them on a flashcard alone, out of context for 2 seconds? Or do you meet them in a podcast where someone is telling a story and the word appears naturally, and you understand it from the situation around it, and your brain says, "Oh, I see." That is what that means. One of these experiences teaches you a word. The other teaches you a word and where it lives, how it sounds when people use it, and why it matters. There is a method called spaced repetition. It is based on one simple idea. You remember things better when you review them at the right moments, not all at once. And when you combine spaced repetition with real context, real audio, real reading, the results are not just better, they are completely different. Stop filling notebooks with lists of words you will forget. Start filling your ears with English that means something to you. Because the words will come. They always come. When the input is right, the vocabulary builds itself. Not slowly, faster than you think. And right now, most vocabulary methods are giving you hours of work with almost no return. Myth number 2. Actually, this one is two myths together because they come from the same place. They come from the belief that learning a language should be easy, fast, and convenient. That if you find the right app, the right shortcut, the right hack, fluency will arrive without real sacrifice. Let me be direct with you. It will not. Let us start with the apps. You know the ones: bright colors, friendly sounds, little badges and streaks, and rewards for showing up 5 minutes a day. They are fun. They feel good. And for absolute beginners, they can help you pick up a few basics. But 5 minutes a day will not make you fluent. Ever. Think about what you are actually asking your brain to do. You want it to operate in a completely different language, to think in that language, to understand fast native speakers, to respond naturally without translating in your head first. That is an enormous skill. And enormous skills require enormous input. 5 minutes a day gives you about 30 hours of English per year. A child learning their first language gets that in less than 2 weeks. The average learner spends 3 years hunting for the perfect app. The serious learner spends 3 years building the right daily habit. After those 3 years, they are not even in the same conversation anymore. One of them still cannot order coffee without hesitating. The other one is watching films without subtitles and making jokes in English. Same 3 years, different results. Different method. Now let us talk about the second myth in this group. I need to live in an English-speaking country to become fluent. I hear this all the time, and I understand why people believe it. Immersion sounds like the answer. Surround yourself with the language and it will just happen. Right here is the uncomfortable truth. Moving to another country does not automatically make you fluent. There are people who have lived in the United States or the United Kingdom for 10, 15, 20 years, and they still struggle with English every day. Because they live inside their own community, they speak their own language at home, they watch television in their own language. They found a way to survive without ever truly entering the English world. Location does not create immersion. Choices create immersion. Benny Lewis is an Irishman who speaks 12 languages. He has never lived in most of the countries whose languages he speaks. He learned them by making a choice every single day to step inside that language. To read it, listen to it, speak it, live inside it as much as possible from wherever he happened to be in the world. He proved something important. You do not need a plane ticket. You need a decision. The exposure you need to become fluent in English exists right now on your phone, on your computer, around you. Films, podcasts, audiobooks, YouTube channels, music, conversations, online. The entire English-speaking world is one tap away. You do not need to move. You need to choose. And that choice made consistently every single day is worth more than any app, any shortcut, any country on the map. The right method is not about where you are. It is about what you do with the hours you have. So if grammar books do not work, vocabulary lists fade, apps are too small, and location does not matter. What does work? I'm going to tell you now, and I want you to listen carefully, because this is the part most people skip. Not because it is complicated, because it sounds almost too simple. Here it is. Massive, daily, meaningful input. That is it. That is the method. Massive input every single day in content that is real and meaningful to you. Let me explain what that means, because those 3 words carry everything. Input means listening and reading, not speaking yet, not writing yet, just taking in the language, absorbing it, letting it enter your brain through your ears and your eyes, over and over in real situations with real meaning. Massive means enough. Not 5 minutes, not 15 minutes on the train. We are talking about 45 minutes to an hour every single day, minimum. This is not punishment. This is what language acquisition actually requires. Your brain needs enough volume to start recognizing patterns, building connections, developing a feel for the language that no textbook can teach you. And meaningful means content that you actually care about, not textbook dialogues about buying groceries at a fictional market. Real English. A podcast about something you find interesting. A documentary about history or science or sport. A drama series that keeps you up at night because you want to know what happens next. A YouTube channel that makes you laugh. When the content is meaningful to you, your brain pays attention differently. It is not processing language, it is processing meaning. And language comes along for the ride. There is a simple idea behind all of this. A researcher named Stephen Krashen spent his life studying how people acquire language, and he found something that changed everything. People do not learn a language by studying it. They acquire it by understanding it, by being inside it at a level that is just slightly above where they are right now. Think of it this way. If everything you hear is too easy, your brain learns nothing new. If everything you hear is too difficult, your brain shuts down and gives up. But if you understand most of what you hear, maybe 80 or 90%, and the remaining 10 or 20% is new and interesting, your brain leans in. It pays attention. It figures things out. And slowly, those new pieces become familiar, and then easy, and then automatic. This is how every fluent speaker in the world got there, not through grammar charts. Through hours and hours of being inside the language at the right level. A man named Katsumoto decided he wanted to speak Japanese. Fluently. Not conversational Japanese, real deep, natural Japanese. He was not Japanese. He had no Japanese family. He did not live in Japan. But he made one decision. He decided that every moment of free time in his life would be in Japanese. Japanese music when he cooked. Japanese podcasts when he walked. Japanese films when he relaxed. Japanese books when he had 10 minutes to sit down. He called it all Japanese all the time. 18 months later, people meeting him for the first time assumed he had grown up in Japan. 18 months. Not because he was exceptional, because his method was. You do not have to go that extreme, but the principle is the same. The more meaningful English you put into your brain, the faster it builds the internal map of the language. And once that map is built, speaking and writing become natural. They are not forced, they flow. The method matters more than the hours. But when the method is right, the hours stop feeling like work. Start today, not next Monday, not after you finish your current textbook. Today. Pick one piece of content in English that you genuinely enjoy. A show, a podcast, a channel. Something that would interest you even if it were in your own language. Give it 45 minutes. Do it again tomorrow and the day after. That is the foundation. Everything else we are going to talk about builds on top of this. Input is the foundation. But a foundation is not a house. At some point, you have to speak. At some point, you have to write. You have to take everything your brain has been quietly collecting and push it back out into the world. This is called output. And it is the second half of what actually builds real fluency. But here is where most people stop. They listen for months. They read. They build up a growing sense of the language inside them. And then someone says, "Say something in English." And they freeze. Their mouth opens. Nothing comes out. Or something comes out, but it feels wrong, broken, embarrassing. And they think I am not ready yet. So they go back to listening, back to studying, back to waiting until they feel ready. Let me tell you something important. That moment, the moment you feel completely ready, will never come. Not because you are not capable, because readiness in language does not arrive before you speak. It arrives through speaking. Most students wait until they feel ready to speak. Strong learners speak before they feel ready, and that gap, that decision to open your mouth before you feel prepared, is where real fluency begins. Now, I am not telling you to walk into a job interview in English tomorrow if you are still at a beginner level. I am not telling you to call a native speaker and have a 2-hour conversation on day 1. I am telling you something smaller and more powerful than that. Speak for 2 minutes every single day. Pick up your phone, press record. Talk about your day. Describe what you see outside your window. Summarize the podcast you listened to this morning. Tell a short story about something that happened to you. It does not need to be perfect. It does not need to be impressive. It just needs to happen. Because when you produce language, your brain works differently than when you only receive it. When you listen, your brain is recognizing patterns. When you speak, your brain is building them. It is searching for words, constructing sentences, making decisions in real time. And every time it does that, it gets a little faster, a little more automatic, a little more natural. Write, too. Not essays, not formal paragraphs. 3 to 5 sentences every day in a notes app or a journal. What did you learn today? What did you feel? What do you want tomorrow to look like? Simple sentences, real thoughts, your English, not someone else's perfect example. Nelson Mandela once said that when you speak to a man in a language he understands, you speak to his head. But when you speak to him in his own language, you speak to his heart. Mandela understood that language is not just communication. It is power. It is connection. And he used every language available to him, imperfectly at first, boldly always, because he knew that waiting for perfection meant surrendering the power of that connection. Do not surrender yours. 2 minutes of speaking, 5 sentences of writing, every single day. That is not a heavy commitment. That is a door. And on the other side of that door is a version of you that reaches for English naturally, without translating, without freezing, without apologizing. What you actually do matters more than how long you sit there. And what you do must include output. Small, consistent, fearless output starting today. Not perfect, just real. Now you know the method. Massive daily input. Real content at the right level. Small daily output. Speaking and writing a little every day before you feel ready. Simple. Clear. Proven. So why do most people still fail? Not because what we talked about is wrong. It is right. They fail because of one enemy that nobody talks about enough. One enemy that is quieter than bad grammar and sneakier than a wrong textbook. One enemy that has stopped more people than any myth we have discussed today. Inconsistency. Let me paint you a picture. There is a student, call her Maria. Maria discovers the right method. She is excited. She starts listening to an English podcast every morning. She speaks for 2 minutes every night. She is doing everything right. For 2 weeks, she is on fire. Then life happens. A busy week at work, a family problem. 3 days pass without any English, then 5. Then she feels guilty, so she sits down for 3 hours on Sunday and tries to catch up. Then nothing again for a week. Sound familiar? Now, there is another student. Call him Daniel. Daniel is not as motivated as Maria. He does not feel excited every morning. Some days he finds the whole thing boring. But he made a rule for himself. 30 minutes of English. Every day. No matter what. On tired days, he listens to something easy. On busy days, he listens while he eats. On bad days, he just reads 3 paragraphs before bed. 30 minutes. Every day. No exceptions. After 6 months, Maria and Daniel are not even comparable. Daniel's English has changed in a way that surprises even him. Maria is still at almost the same level she started, Same method, completely different results. Because of one thing only: consistency. Here is the math, and it is not complicated. 30 minutes every day for 1 year is 182 hours of English. 5 hours every Sunday for 1 year is 260 hours. Sounds like Sunday wins, right? Wrong. Because your brain does not build language in one long session. It builds language through regular, repeated exposure over time. Every day you practice, you reinforce the connections your brain built yesterday. Every day you skip those connections, get a little weaker. Consistency is not just discipline, it is biology. The people who wait for motivation to strike will wait forever. Motivation is a feeling. Feelings come and go. Discipline is a decision. Decisions hold. This is not just about English. This is about who you are choosing to become. Because every time you open that podcast when you do not feel like it, you are proving something to yourself. You are proving that you are the kind of person who follows through. And that identity, the identity of someone who does what they said they would do, that identity will carry you further than any talent, any app, any shortcut ever could. 30 minutes today is not impressive. 30 minutes today and tomorrow and every day for the next 12 months is transformation. Do not try to be perfect. Do not try to study for 3 hours and make up for lost time. Just come back. Every day. Show up. Even small. Even tired. Even when you feel like you are not making progress. Because you are. Even when you cannot see it, the brain is working. The connections are forming. The language is building, quietly, steadily, one consistent day at a time. The method matters more than the hours, and the most powerful part of the method is simply this: never stop. We have covered a lot today. Let me bring it home. You are not failing at English because you are not smart enough, or not trying hard enough, or not talented enough. You are failing because you were handed the wrong tools and told they were the right ones. Grammar books that gave you rules but never gave you the language. Vocabulary lists that filled notebooks but not your brain. Apps that rewarded streaks but never built real fluency. Myths that wasted your time and quietly stole your confidence. That ends today. The method is not complicated. 45 minutes to an hour of real English input every day, content you actually enjoy, at a level where you understand most of it, but not all of it. 2 minutes of speaking every day before you feel ready. 5 sentences of writing every day, your real thoughts in simple, honest English. And above all, consistency. 30 minutes every single day beats 5 hours once a week, every time. The method matters more than the hours, and now you know the method. One thing before you go. I want you to think about which myth held you back the longest. Was it the grammar rules? The vocabulary lists? The belief that you needed to move abroad? The hope that an app would fix everything? Sit with that for a moment, and then let it go. Because now you are moving forward with something real. Tell me in the comments below. Which myth did you believe the longest? I read every single comment, and I want to know your story. If this lesson changed something in how you think about learning English, share it with one person who needs to hear it. One friend, one classmate, one family member who is stuck in the same wrong method. Share it today. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now. Every week there is a new lesson, real English, real ideas, built for people who are serious about growing. Keep listening every day. Keep showing up. Your English will grow, and so will you. I will see you in the next one.